Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Oh, my wonderful Seek Reality friends, believe it or not, at this point, I usually get one or twice, maybe even more sometimes, inquiries each week from agents who want me to interview this or that author who has written something they're just certain you are going to absolutely love to read. And at this point, I kind of already know what you're going to like, and I usually turn most of them down because at this point, our plate is pretty full of people you already love. So I tend to interview the same people pretty frequently. And many of our guests at this time are in double digits with Seek Reality. We're going on 11 years now as for many people, an old regular in your playlist. Many of you say you want Mikey back or Peter Wright or somebody else who's your favorite. And for many of you, your longtime favorite of all is Craig Hogan. And you'll be glad to hear he's back with us again for the 45th time. And that's just about right, isn't it? Because Craig was one of our very first, I think he may have been our very first guest almost 11 years ago now, in June of 2013. And he had then just published Your Eternal Self a few years before, and I loved that book so much that I sponsored a speaking engagement for Craig here in Austin. I had never done that before, but I was just in love with that book. And that's how Craig and I first met. And we've worked together closely ever since, putting on conferences at first. And although we've soon discovered a conference is pretty inefficient, you gather a few people, they have to spend money, they have to fly there, and so on. And we had to put in a lot of effort to get 200, then 300, then 400 people together in one space. But we have many times that number of people who are going to hear us now talking today and talking about something very, very important each time we get together. So we do this instead. And as you all know, Craig is putting on Seek Reality Online. He's putting on with me teachingsbyjesus.com, and we reach many more people with exciting, exciting news. And we write books. We do things that get the word out a lot more efficiently now, but we've been friends now for a lot longer than 10 years, and we're really, really enjoying the work we do. And of all the leading experts on the afterlife worldwide, Craig Hogan really is the leading expert. His books on the topic are the go-to resources on this subject. If you want to know what to read, and I'll put this in the notes, you don't have to drive off the road to try to write them down, but reasons for what happens to you in your life and your afterlife, and answers to life's enduring questions from science discoveries and from afterlife revelations are two that come to mind. And when people ask me what the difference is between Craig's books and my own books on the afterlife and other things, I tell them Craig uses footnotes. If footnotes are important to you, read his books. But today I want to talk about a very important topic with him that even most afterlife researchers very seldom touch. But Craig actually wrote a book on this. His book is called There Is Nothing But Mind and Experiences. Our topic today is going to be consciousness. My dear Craig, my beloved friend, welcome. It's so good to have you back with us today.
It's a delight to be here. We have a wonderful time when we get together like this. And so I want to share that with everybody who's listening right now and watching what we're doing. We have so much to say.
We do. Mm-hmm. We actually can't stop talking, even on the phone. Mm-hmm. We both work too. There's a lot we have to do. So usually when we talk, Craig is when he has to push me off the phone. Well, I have to get back to work. That's what I hear always, because I just love to catch up with him. Whatever he's doing, I'm happy to hear. But consciousness is a pretty heavy subject to a lot of people. And the reason is, the true reason we have a problem with consciousness in the world as a topic is simple. Science won't touch it. And the reason they won't touch it is that they decided at the end of the 19th, early part of the 20th century, that consciousness was something they weren't going to look into except from a material standpoint. It has to be produced by matter, or they won't look into it because they were afraid they might inadvertently find, how do I say this word? God. How scary would that be if you were a scientist, right? Because this war goes back to Plato and Aristotle, doesn't it? Goes back that far. The people who believed in God and the people who believed in not God. And the atheists could not let the theists win. Am I oversimplifying this, Craig, or what?
No, it's true. It's entirely true. What happened was that the theists, or those who dominant in the church, and especially in Western society, pretty well had all of society under its hold. All of society then was ecclesiastical. It was all church oriented. And as a result of that, then to maintain their control and maintain their power, then they refused to allow anybody to have anything having to do with religion or the internal person, the mental person. And so what Descartes was wise enough to do was to say, okay, church, you go ahead and you can handle the inner person, you can handle the mental stuff, and we'll take care of all the physical stuff. And the church said, oh, that's cool. Okay, let's do it like that. And so ever since then, science has insisted upon the physical, upon what we experience in the world around us. And the church was left with the spiritual or the mental or what's going on inside. And the church, of course, had this theological notion that everything was based upon the canon of the New Testament and some fragments of the Old Testament. And as a result of that, then the church maintained the control over spirituality, over the mind, over consciousness, over all of that. And of course, it didn't go anywhere then. It stayed stuck in the ecclesiastical raiments that they had put around it. It had a shroud around it of ecclesiastical dogma. And so now we're just beginning to break out of that. And so now we are exploring it, and science then is now the person or the entity that is most involved in trying to impede us from what we're doing. And we are now overcoming science as well as we overcome the church. And so that's the period in which we're in now. It's an exciting period in which we're discovering for the first time in humankind's history the real nature of consciousness and reality.
But isn't it laughable? I mean, I remember when I was doing, because of the great, as you know, heyday of afterlife communications was the late 19th, early 20th century with all the deep trance mediums and their communications. And that's how I really proved to myself that the afterlife was real, by reading these books. You could find them in the 60s and 70s in bookstores, and I bought those books. And, Gladys Osborne, Leonard, and all those folks, you could find their books, the books that people who had studied them had written. And I have them. They're treasured books in my book collection. And I could not believe, as I was getting, I had subscriptions to science magazines. I figured out what was going on. They were actually materialism was becoming what they were calling, and you could see it in print. The mainstream, not mainstream, they didn't use that word yet. It was the materialism was becoming the fundamental dogma of science. Mm-hmm. Materialism, those words were in print. We are materialist. We study matter, and that was what they were requiring of young scientists. If you are determined to study consciousness, we have to look at how it originates in matter, in the matter of the brain. And I couldn't believe that this is what they were doing, because if you start there, how are you doing science? I couldn't get it. But then I came to understand where it came from. It started way before the 20th or the 19th or the 18th even century. This goes back to Plato and Aristotle. It was a fight. You don't start this fight this late. It went back a long time before we were born. I couldn't get over it though, Craig. It was so amazing to me that adult scientists thought this was an okay way to do science.
Yeah, the science has been taken out of it. And the reason for that is that scientists want to believe that the mind is created by the brain, is housed in the brain. The memories are stored in the brain. And because of that limited point of view, then they won't allow themselves to consider anything else. And so they ignore all of the rest of what we know to be true today. Because we have the data. We have the data to show that the mind is not in the brain. The mind is doing things outside of the brain. In remote viewing, for instance, we can sit someplace and we can view things that are thousands of miles away. That can't happen if the 3 to 5 pounds of tofu-like mush inside of our skulls is all there is to consciousness. Consciousness is outside of the skull. It's outside of the brain. And as a result of that, because we know that consciousness is outside of the brain, then we have to explain where is consciousness and what is consciousness. And so we have a whole new set of questions. They won't look through the telescope in the same way that Galileo kept saying to the scientists of his time, look through my telescope. You'll see that Venus, it has phases, and Jupiter has moons, and there are craters on the moon, and you'll see that the Earth is not the center of the universe. That, in fact, we are in a heliocentric system. The sun is at the center of this system, and there's a much vaster system than that. And they wouldn't look through the telescope, and the same thing's happening now. They just won't look at the data. They say, no, we won't look at that. And they all come together and they all agree that they're not going to look at it, and that it is pseudoscience and there's nothing to it. And so as a result of that, they're not advancing.
They're not allowed to. It's so amazing to me. I've been reading these popular science magazines ever since the early 90s. And so I watched this very confident attitude they had. By when are these things going to be discovered? And they were giving confident prognostications by when these things were going to happen, by when we'll have discovered. $1 billion was being spent. They had it already, it was in the bank and being spent on finding the source inside the head of consciousness. And they were sure when it would be done. And then because I was reading, this was my bedtime reading, little by little, you watched them become dispirited because they came to see it was not happening on schedule.
Yeah. They're still certain that they can find the mind in the brain. So it's called The Hard Problem of Consciousness by David Chalmers. And the easy problem of consciousness is
they say they can, but they can't. Yeah. There's a wonderful, there are a couple of really wonderful, that I know of, there may be others, institutes that are privately funded by Christian billionaires that are free to look for the truth about consciousness. And the work they do is extraordinary. And they put up challenges which no scientist can solve. And they have done wonderful work on consciousness. And I get there. One of them is this Discovery Institute, and another of them is called, skips my mind because it's not the main work they do. But they have done wonderful work on consciousness. And they basically have proven that it's, well, your book does the same thing. It's ambient, basically. It's our minds pick it up. Your mind is a receiver and transmitter. That's all it is. There's no way it does anything other than receive and transmit consciousness. And it's wonderful to watch them win and then take these little victory laps around the poor, dispirited mainstream consciousness of failures that are the mainstream scientists. So
Yeah.
maybe,
So what they're trying to do is to come up with alternatives to put the mind into the brain somehow, and so they come up with explanations that they believe are going to eventually put the mind in the brain. There's the whole brain hypothesis, then that the whole brain is involved, and because the whole brain is involved, that's why you can't find where consciousness is. And they believe that the memories are stored in the brain. And
yes, I have seen those. I have seen those articles, but they don't.
Mhm.
They when they're challenged by the Discovery Institute, I think his name is James Tours, is the reigning expert at the Discovery Institute on consciousness. He's absolutely brilliant, and he takes all of their theories, dissects them, shows them to be stupid, challenges that they cannot answer. So he basically is taking one by one, taking all their little theories and dissecting them and showing them why they're stupid and throwing them back at them and saying, okay, solve this. And they can't.
Yeah.
Even,
So now we have,
because they have good contributors, he even puts money behind his challenge. They can't do
Mhm.
anything about it.
So what we have now is we have, since we know that the mind can't be in the brain, we have
Yes.
remote viewing where we can view things that are thousands of miles away. We have psychic abilities where people can know things about other people that they couldn't possibly know. We have Ganzfeld experiments in which people are able to predict the cards that are going to be shown. We have the Dean Radin's experiments with the computer in which the computer brings up images at random and the person is reacting to the images that are coming up at random on the computer 6 to 7 seconds before they're chosen by the computer. So we have all
Right.
kinds of information now
Right.
to demonstrate the fact that the mind couldn't possibly be in the brain. It has to be outside of the brain. And so now we're looking at it differently. So now we're saying, well, if the mind isn't in the brain, where in the world is it? And so then we say that it's not in the world. And that's part of the reason that we know that this is true,
Right.
that the mind is much greater than that. In fact, we are all part of one universal consciousness, our universal intelligence, and we are one with it. So there is nothing but our universal intelligence, and we then are having experiences within it in our minds, but our minds are not limited to what's inside of the brain. So we can conceivably bring anything into our minds that we want to bring in. We don't have to have eyes to see. We don't have to have ears to hear. We can get hearing experiences and sight experiences that are entirely separate from the body. The body doesn't have to be involved. It doesn't have to be there to see something, or it doesn't have to be there to hear something. And so as a result of that, then we're doing experiments. People are doing experiments now in which they are proving that the mind is doing things outside of the body when the body's not involved. And we have other reasons for believing that's true. In near-death experiences, when people's bodies are catatonic, they are completely lifeless. They are, for all intents and purposes, dead in the clinical sense. And during that period of time when the body is dead, they are having experiences. They're out there in the world doing things. They're walking around. They're seeing things in other rooms other than the operating room where their body is laying. And they're describing these to doctors afterwards, and the doctors are just amazed at what they're describing. So we know that their minds are active. The more that the body shuts down, which is what happens in a near-death experience, when the body shuts down, then the mind becomes active. So the body then is limiting the mind. But when we're freed from the mind, as in a near-death experience, then we can have all kinds of experiences of sights, sounds, smells, tastes, textures, all of these things that we would expect that would involve the brain. We don't need them. So people are out there doing that. And then after they actually go through the death experience, then they come back and they tell us about it. And they say, now I'm healthier than I've ever been. I'm lighter than a feather. I'm living well. All of my senses are active, but my body's been dead for 2 years. And so we know that the mind is not in the brain. The mind is not in the body.
Yes, yes. And we know that we survive our deaths just fine. I get emails every single day from people who have lost a loved one, and they say, I've read your books. I just want to know, is my mom, is my, grandpa, is this person okay? And I say, well, you've read my books, you know the truth. Yeah,
Yep.
there's no, that one person that you love, don't even think about it. That person is beside you now and is giving you a hug. Just don't even think about it.
Yeah, they're
Live
joyful.
your life and know that that person is going to come to your bedside. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how it happens. Isn't that
Yeah.
a joyous way to know that things really are that wonderful and more so?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're active out there. They're anxious to communicate with us. So they're coming back and they're saying, I want to prove to you, I want to show you that I'm alive. I'm fine. I don't want you
Yes,
to worry about me. And all you have to do is settle down and listen to me. All you have to do
yes.
is settle down and
People,
hear the words that I'm speaking to
yes,
you.
that's so
Get the
true,
feelings
Craig.
that I'm giving to you. And I had a woman who just sent an email to me yesterday about her. She was going through the self-guided afterlife communication experience. It's a free online program. Anybody can go through it that we produced, and it will teach people how to have
Wait,
an
what's the
afterlife
website? Quickly
communication.
tell them how to
It's at
go there.
it's at afterlifeinstitute.org/self hyphen guided. Afterlifeinstitute.org/self hyphen guided. And she went through the procedure and she learned how to do it. She learned how to communicate their loved ones. And one of the things that she said to her loved one on the other side was, I wish I could give you a hug. And all of a sudden she felt this tingling all over her body. And the person on the other side was giving her a hug. We have another instances in an induced after-death communication where a psychotherapist puts a person into a state of mind in which they have an afterlife communication. And it was done by Dr. Alan Botkin of Libertyville, Illinois. And he put the person into this experience of induced after-death communication, and the person was sitting with his eyes closed, having an experience of talking with his brother, and all of a sudden he jolted, and his eyes opened. He said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what just happened. It felt like a big claw was on me." And so Dr. Botkin said, "Well, go back in. Let's go back in and see what happens." So he went back in, he closed his eyes, and he said to his brother, what was that?" And his brother said, "I was giving you a hug." And so with these experiences that people are having, they're having without using the brain. The brain is not involved. It's people coming into them and speaking to them and having experiences with them without a body, without having the body doing something. And so all of these things are showing us, they're proving to us the fact that the mind is not in the body. That means the mind lives on after the body dies. And that means that other people whom we love, who are not in bodies right now, are still alive and well and anxious to communicate with us.
Please understand, everyone, that what Craig is talking about is not only true, but it's common. And if you want this kind of experience with someone you love, who has gone on ahead of you just for you, who has transitioned, you can have it guaranteed. All you have to do is ask for it. Craig can help you do it. This is his specialty. He's waiting to help you, for heaven's sake. So give him the chance to do it. This isn't my area. This is his area. So give him the chance to do it.
Yeah, and the phone is ringing. I mean, they're trying to communicate with everyone. Your loved ones are trying to communicate with you.
They love us so much. They hate to see us suffer. They hate to see us in grief.
They feel so bad about it. They want to say, "Listen, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Live your life, and we're going to get together again. We're going to have this wonderful reunion in just a few years. So live your life. Don't cry." Especially children. Children say that to their parents, and we actually have a recording of a child from the afterlife in an instrumental transcommunication, but done by Sonia Rinaldi, in which a child comes through and she said, and Sonia said to the child, "What would you like to say to your mother?" And the child says, and we have the recording, "Don't cry." And what they're saying is, "Don't worry about me. I'm fine. And we're going to have a wonderful time when we get back together again." And we share stories about what's been going on with us and look forward to it. It's not going to be very much time. Our Earth is very brief. It just happens instantly, just in a blink of an eye. And we'll be together with them again. And that's what they want us to know.
That is so true. It is so. People, I hear from people, you hear from them as well, but the people who contact me, I can't really help them. I can't tell you how many people think I must be a medium. Oh my goodness. I'm not even a medium, but you can help. And so I'm just going to tell everybody, hey, here's his email address. Just contact Craig, because you really can help them. And we've
Yeah, we have
got to
many
get
ways.
more people doing that.
Hmm.
I tell them, go to secretreality.com, learn the truth. Go to afterlifeinstitute.org, learn the truth.
Yeah, the truth is there. And all we're doing is we're not making the truth. All we're doing is sharing what we learned is
Yes.
true. And we're learning new things every day. We're having people come through from the life after this life, and they're speaking to us, and they're telling us what the life is like there. And what we're trying to do is just share this with people. Every day we learn new things, and we're putting them online at seekreality.com. And the purpose of it is to help people to understand that we are eternal beings. We're having a brief physical experience. We're going to go on after this experience is done, and all of our loved ones are waiting for us on the other side as soon as we get there. And we just want people to understand the truth about who we are in eternity and our loved ones and where they are right now.
You know what consciousness is, right? Because you experience it whenever you're awake, and even whenever you're asleep, you experience consciousness constantly. Well, the only thing you need to understand, everyone, is that nothing else exists. Everything is consciousness. I have an article which I love. I don't think they'd even publish it today. It's about 10 years old. But it says even your body is 99.999999979% empty space. It is. Everything is 99.79% empty space. The rest of it is whatever the space is in between those tiny dots, which are, inside atoms. And those atoms are whirling energy. So even inside those atoms, it's all empty space. If the White House is the nucleus of an atom, the closest orbiting electron is going to be as far away as Denver. And in between is empty space. Guess what? That's what reality is. It's all illusion. Albert Einstein said that. He said it's a heck of an illusion, but an illusion is what it is. It's all mind. Mind and experiences. That's what Craig's book calls it, and that's what it is. So get used to that. You can't put your hand through your desk because the atoms in your hand conflict with the atoms in your desk. It's that simple.
The basis of reality is energy. And
Yes.
this is what they're saying, that at the basis of reality is energy. It's in a different form when it's in matter, but it's all energy. And what that tells us is that what we believe to be solid bodies and solid space and solid tables and chairs and all of this is actually energy. It's different forms. So that easily explains the fact that consciousness is at the basis of reality. The consciousness is the energy. The consciousness is the precipitating force that makes the energy possible. And so if you think that, well, no, I can't believe that consciousness is the basis of reality because things are solid. We have tables and they're not conscious. But science is telling us that at the basis of reality, there is only energy. That energy that we know now is consciousness. So we know that that's true. Science is helping us to understand that. We know that in this energy world that we are in, there are no colors in this energy world. There are no sounds in this energy world. It's all just energy. And then our minds are what give it color. Our minds are what give it sound. And our minds give it meaning. And so then our experiences are coming from consciousness. Our consciousness are related to each other. And at the basis of it all is our universal intelligence. And that is the mind of God. As Amit Goswami, the quantum physicist, came to the conclusion after despairing over his life and what was he doing and why are things like this in his life. And he came down to an epiphany and he discovered, and he said, there is nothing but God. there is nothing but God. And people need to just realize that, and that God is our universal intelligence. It's our consciousness. We are all members of it. We are sharing it. We are part of it.
There is one mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's one mind, and we're all part of that mind. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a beautiful thought?
We're having the same dream together.
Yes.
So, and in the same way that when we have a dream, we create characters, we create scenery, we have feelings of touch, we have feelings of smell, even erotic experiences, all of these things that happen in dreams, but there is no world in the dreams. There is no physical world in the dreams, and yet we're having those experiences. And the reason for that is because experiences are entirely in the mind. And that as a result of that, then we know that even when we're moving around in this world, even when we're doing things in this world, it's actually happening in our universal intelligence. It's happening in the mind of God, and we are participants in it. We are having the same dream together.
But don't you see how beautiful this all is? When we all understand this, there are no wars. You can't have a war with yourself. There's no hatred. There's no anger. It's all love. Love is really the only emotion. And to the extent we ever deviate from it, we're at war with ourselves. That's who we're at war with. And that the beauty of it is that the more you get this, the freer you are. You're really making peace with yourself. That's the beauty of it. And that's the greatest teacher was Jesus, still is Jesus, because this is really what Jesus taught. We just didn't understand it. We're beginning to understand it now.
Yeah, after 2,000 years, the second coming of Jesus is actually going to be his being understood for the first time. And so what we're seeing now is people are understanding what he said because of the advancements that we're making in spirituality and understanding the mind and understanding reality. Now we're looking back at it and saying, oh, that's what he meant. Yes. That's what he was trying to tell us. That's what the Jews at the time couldn't understand. He was a Jew, and he was trying to just tell his fellow Jews what the truth was, and they didn't understand it, and so people didn't understand it. Then the church took over anything having to do with Jesus and with what he was trying to teach people, and they cloaked it in the ecclesiastical robes, and so the truth was hidden. And finally, today, for the first time, we're really first understanding what Jesus was really trying to say to humankind.
Because the church is getting out of the way too. They didn't understand it either. Yep, that's right. Exactly right, sweetie. Yeah, so I think your book is great. I think I'm recommending it. By the way, the books I've talked about are going to be in the notes. His websites will be in the notes, and the link to the wonderful course in is it a course in how to communicate with your loved ones?
It is a course. It's in stages. It's in 8 stages, and it begins by helping people to understand in the first 2 stages what happens when you communicate, how you can communicate. Where's that voice coming from in my mind? How do I know that it's the voice of my loved one? So the first 2 stages teach them that. This 3rd stage teaches them how to relax and allow unfoldment. Unfoldment means things come into your mind that you don't intend to come. They're not coming from your imagination. You're just allowing them to come. And that's in stage 3. And then stage 4, I guide them into it's a narration. I guide them, and they're listening to music as I narrate it. And they're going into the experience of having an afterlife communication with their loved one. And then in the stage 5, then they sit down and they have a daydream in which they have a communication, and the daydream morphs into a communication. Stages 6 and 7 then teach them how to do all of this without any narration, without any music, just sitting down in a doctor's office, sitting anywhere that they are, and they can have the communication with their loved one. And then stage 8 teaches them how to see the signs that their loved one is with them and is trying to communicate with them. So all of it bundled together teaches them how to communicate. And thousands of people have gone through it. Some people are sitting down every day and they're having a conversation with their loved one and before the day begins.
That would work. I can see why that would work just perfectly.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's exciting to see people realize that they can communicate with their loved one. They don't need a medium. We know that this is true. We know 86% of the people who go through the training will have the experience of communicating with their loved one. And we have psychotherapists are taking people into the same sort of a situation, and they're up to 98% successful. So we know that people can communicate with their loved one. They just have to learn how to
100%
do
of
it.
people did not resist it. People tend to resist it, I think, and that would be that's that last 2%.
It's the doubt. Right.
Yeah.
That's the doubt, because it's just hard for people to understand. And that would make sense, because we've been reared in a materialistic world. We've been reared in a world that was dominated by science, first by the church and then by science. Both of them told us that we can't communicate with our loved ones living in the life after this life. And so people believe that, and we're just growing out of that. But it's difficult for people to let go of that prejudice that somehow they can't communicate with their loved one. But if they let go of it, then the communications will happen automatically. They will simply happen naturally. It's a part of life.
I'm sure that's true. I'm so sorry we've come to the end of our time. This always happens. We always run over. But Craig, what do you want people to take from what we've said today?
Yeah, just to realize that the more that they delve into it, the more they look at the reality of who they are, the more they will discover the fact that they are eternal beings having a physical experience. Then they will realize that they are going to go on into the end of their life and look forward to their next life when they graduate from the Earth School, and that their loved ones are alive and well and anxious to communicate, and all they have to do is learn how to communicate, and then that will help them to realize the fact that they're fine. They don't need to worry about them. They can feel less grief as a result, and also they can be assured that they will continue to live after their body dies.
Life is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does. It doesn't ever begin, and it doesn't ever end. It's eternal in every respect. Oh, please consider yourself hugged, my dear. And everyone, this has been a very, very special time for me. I just love talking with my beautiful friend, Craig. As you know, this has been another episode of Secret Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you get that, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Karen Fullerton. Now, Karen is a first-time guest. Didn't I just tell you we just never had first-time guests? Well, she's a first-time guest. I was captivated by what her agent pitched to me, and I said, maybe. And she didn't even have a book. And when that happens, I said, all right, send me questions. What are 8 questions she'd like, or 10, that she'd like me to ask her? And they were, even though she apparently coaches only women, I was captivated by the questions. They were the kinds of questions that a caring person would want to be asked. And I thought, all right, we'll try this one. And actually, my next week's guest is also a first-timer, but these are probably the only first-timers we'll hear from in this 6-month period. She said, this woman is a certified lifeline practitioner, never heard of that. And she's also an intuitive Reiki and quantum energy practitioner, and also never heard of that. And she looks like someone who cares a lot. So I'm experimenting here, and I'm hoping you're going to want to experiment with me. Please join me next week, and let's learn together what Karen Fullerton has to share about how to be a caring practitioner to everyone. This week, we've been talking with our great friend, Dr. R. Craig Hogan, who's been with us today for the 45th time in almost 11 years. We've been talking about the cutting-edge fact that consciousness is all that exists, and consciousness is the mind of God, and each of us. God is very different, obviously, from what any religion has ever taught. Consciousness is all of us. We are all together having experiences that will help us learn and grow spiritually, and learn, finally, after all, to love perfectly. And as science is our great obstacle, but as Craig is such an optimist, that's one of the things I love about this man. Nikola Tesla said, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence." Another optimist. Albert Einstein said that toward the end of his life, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one, and persistent this illusion truly is. I urge you, if you worry about anyone you love, the person to get in touch with is Dr. R. Craig Hogan. He truly is the person who can help you with that. But I just love to listen to him talk. Frankly, we'll have him on again very soon. We have him on really like clockwork every 3 months, and sometimes even more frequently than that. His website and how to get in touch with him is seekreality.org, or the other one is, Craig, what's the other website?
AfterlifeInstitute.org.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting it.
Right.
AfterlifeInstitute.
Yeah, and SeekReality is seekreality.com.
Yes, those are his two websites, and he is very accessible, very approachable. He really, unlike many people who are as well known as he is, who are as busy as he is someone who truly cares about people much more than really anybody else that I have ever known. And because he's that way, he is someone who is really going to care about you. So approach him and he will help you. And approach me and I'll help you as best I can as well. It's time once again, of course, just to mention the fact that he is the president of Seek Reality Online, and Seek Reality Online is your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. Just go to seekreality.com. Learn for yourself that your own reality is eternal, whether you like it or not. Some people say, I'm just going to die. No, you won't. You don't have a choice in that. You are eternal. You're here for a very brief time, as he pointed out to you. Learn the ultimate truth from our dear friend Craig and make the rest of your life truly happy, knowing that you really, truly are an eternal being and you never, ever are going to die. And teachingsbyjesus.com is your single resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher of them all, Master Jesus. He asked us to create a website for him, and I am trying to get free of other things I have to do now so I can really make this Jesus's turn. He asked me to do this, and I am trying. As Christianity, the religion that was created by the Roman Emperor Constantine and not by Jesus, finally is dying out, the genuine teachings of Jesus can at last truly come alive for us all. As you know, I have books, but I don't have time now really to tell you what my books are, but I think you know all of them. And if you want to talk about anything at all, or just anything, you can always contact me through the green contact block on robertagrimes.com. I answer every email. It can take me a week sometimes because I get so many, but make sure you give me the right address because I'm serious about answering every email. And sometimes I'll write a long email response and it bounces and that really ruins my day. So just make sure I have your right address. And all of the more than 500 past episodes of Seek Reality are available wherever audio podcasts can be found. And now, of course, you can see video episodes each week on Roku or Fire Stick, YouTube, and elsewhere. And meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful and eternal being. But please, most of all, know that you, most of all in this entire universe, you, and most of all in this greater reality, most of all, you are infinite, eternally and perfectly forever loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.